Shiva has a message for you today. Don't ignore this sign. What if the sign you've been asking the universe for has already appeared and you've been too distracted to notice it? Today, inspired by the timeless wisdom associated with Shiva, we'll explore a message about transformation that may arrive exactly when you need it most. Stay until the end, because the final lesson could change the way you see your life forever. Have you ever felt that life is trying to tell you something, but you just can't understand the message? Maybe you've noticed strange coincidences. A door suddenly closes. Someone unexpectedly leaves your life. A dream stays with you long after you wake up. Or perhaps there's a quiet feeling inside you that refuses to go away. What if these moments aren't random? What if they are invitations to pause, to reflect, and to transform? Today, inspired by the timeless wisdom associated with Shiva, the symbol of transformation, inner strength, and renewal, we'll explore a message that has guided seekers for centuries. Stay with me until the end, because the final lesson may help you see your current challenges from an entirely new perspective. Take a slow, deep breath. Let your mind become still, and ask yourself one simple question. What am I still holding on to that no longer belongs in my life? Most people believe that change begins when something new enters their lives, but Shiva's symbolism teaches something different. True transformation begins when we have the courage to release what is no longer serving us. Imagine carrying a backpack filled with heavy stones. Every disappointment, every regret, every painful memory, and every fear of failure. At first, you barely notice the weight. You become used to it, and you tell yourself that everyone carries burdens, so you keep walking. But with each passing day, the backpack becomes heavier. Your steps become slower, your dreams feel farther away, your heart grows tired, and eventually you begin to believe that the weight is simply part of who you are. Yet it isn't. The burden was never your identity. It was only something you chose or learned to carry. This is one of the deepest lessons inspired by Shiva. Transformation is not always about becoming someone new. Sometimes it is about remembering who you were before fear, disappointment, and doubt covered your true nature. Look around your own life for a moment. Is there a relationship that drains your energy more than it nourishes your spirit? Is there a fear that has stopped you from taking the first step towards something meaningful? Is there an old story you keep repeating to yourself? I'm not good enough. I'll never succeed. It's too late for me. These stories can become invisible prisons, not because they are true, but because we repeat them so often that they begin to feel familiar. And familiarity is powerful. The mind often chooses what is familiar over what is freeing. That is why many people remain stuck, not because they lack potential, not because the universe has forgotten them, but because they continue protecting the very chains they hope to escape. Shiva is often associated with endings, but endings are frequently misunderstood. People fear them because they see only what disappears. They rarely notice what becomes possible afterward. Think about nature. A forest cannot welcome fresh growth if old branches never fall. The sunrise cannot appear until the night has completed its journey. Even the seasons remind us that letting go is woven into the rhythm of life. Nothing alive remains exactly the same forever. So why do we expect ourselves to? Perhaps the challenge you're facing today is not a punishment. Perhaps it is an invitation. An invitation to trust yourself more deeply, to stop resisting the changes already unfolding, to release the beliefs that no longer reflect who you are becoming. This doesn't mean change is easy. Real transformation rarely is. There may be uncertainty, there may be moments when the future feels unclear, but uncertainty is not always a sign that you're lost. Sometimes it is simply the space between who you have been and who you are about to become. The strongest trees do not grow because life was always calm. They grow because they learn to bend with the storm without breaking. Your spirit has that same capacity, even if you cannot see it today, especially if you cannot see it today. So before we continue, I want you to pause for just a moment. Close your eyes if you can. Take one slow breath in and one slow breath out. Now silently ask yourself, what am I afraid to release? Don't force an answer. Simply allow the question to rest within you. Sometimes the most important answers arrive not when we chase them, but when we finally become quiet enough to listen. If you've stayed with me this far, perhaps something inside you already recognizes that this message isn't about searching for answers somewhere far away. It's about remembering what your heart has been whispering all along. There are moments in life when transformation doesn't announce itself with thunder or dramatic events. Instead, it arrives quietly, like the first light before sunrise, barely noticeable, yet impossible to stop. Inspired by the wisdom associated with Shiva, here are 3 signs that may suggest you are entering a season of profound inner transformation. The first sign: what once fulfilled you no longer feels the same. Perhaps you've noticed that certain conversations leave you feeling empty. Activities you once enjoyed no longer bring the same excitement. Even places you've loved begin to feel unfamiliar. Many people interpret this as something being wrong. But what if nothing is wrong? What if your inner world has simply begun to outgrow your outer world? Growth often feels uncomfortable because your soul is expanding while your habits are trying to keep everything the same. Imagine wearing shoes that fit perfectly when you were a child. One day they begin to hurt, not because the shoes changed, but because you did. The same is true for many parts of life. Sometimes relationships, sometimes careers, sometimes dreams you once believed were your destiny. Growth asks an uncomfortable question: does this still reflect who I am becoming? And if the answer is no, it may be time to release it with gratitude instead of fear. The second sign: life begins removing what no longer belongs. This can be one of the most confusing experiences. People drift away, plans suddenly collapse, unexpected changes interrupt everything you carefully arranged. Our first reaction is often resistance. We ask, why is this happening to me? But perhaps a more powerful question is, what space is being created for something new? Think about a gardener. Before planting new seeds, the soil must be cleared. Old weeds are removed, dead branches are cut away. From the outside, it may appear as though something beautiful is being destroyed, but the gardener sees something different. He sees preparation. Life often works in much the same way. Not every ending is a loss. Some endings are acts of preparation. Some closed doors quietly protect us from paths that were never meant to become our future. Months later, sometimes years later, we look back and finally understand why life unfolded exactly as it did. The wisdom inspired by Shiva reminds us that transformation isn't simply about creating, it is also about releasing. Without release, there is no renewal. The third sign: you begin seeking silence more than distraction. The modern world constantly competes for your attention. Notifications, conversations, news, entertainment, noise, so much noise. But there comes a moment when something changes. You begin craving stillness, not because you're escaping life, but because you're finally ready to hear yourself. Silence can feel uncomfortable at first. When the noise disappears, the mind often becomes louder. Old fears emerge. Forgotten memories return. Questions you've avoided begin asking for your attention. Many people quickly reach for another distraction, another scroll, another video, another conversation, anything to avoid sitting with themselves. Yet within many spiritual traditions, silence is seen not as emptiness, but as a place of discovery. It is in quiet moments that we begin noticing patterns we previously overlooked. We recognize beliefs we've carried for years without questioning them. We discover strengths that were hidden beneath constant busyness. And little by little, the voice of fear grows softer, while the voice of wisdom becomes easier to recognize. This doesn't happen overnight. Transformation is rarely dramatic. More often, it is a series of small choices: choosing forgiveness over resentment, choosing courage over comfort, choosing compassion over judgment, choosing presence over distraction. These choices may seem insignificant in the moment, but over time, they shape an entirely different life. Perhaps the greatest mistake we make is believing that transformation requires becoming someone extraordinary. The wisdom inspired by Shiva suggests something much simpler. Transformation begins the moment you stop pretending to be someone you are not. The moment you allow yourself to release old identities, old fears, old expectations, and step, however cautiously, toward the person you already have the potential to become. So I invite you to pause again. Ask yourself honestly, which of these 3 signs feels closest to your own life today? You don't need to answer out loud, just let the question settle gently within you. because awareness is often the first step toward meaningful change, and sometimes that first step changes everything. Before we finish, there is one final lesson inspired by the wisdom associated with Shiva, a lesson that many people spend their entire lives trying to understand. We often believe that strength means holding on to people, holding on to plans, holding on to identities, holding on to versions of ourselves that no longer reflect who we are. But sometimes, the greatest strength is found in letting go. Think of a river. It never argues with the rocks in its path. It doesn't stop because the journey becomes difficult. It flows, it adapts, it continues moving forward, and because it keeps flowing, it eventually reaches the ocean. Your life has that same quiet wisdom within it. You may not control every obstacle. You may not understand every delay. You may not know why certain chapters had to end, but you can choose whether to become trapped by the past or guided by what it has taught you. Every challenge carries two gifts. The first is the lesson itself. The second is the person you become by learning it. Perhaps the difficult season you're living through right now is not here to break you. Perhaps it is revealing a strength you have not yet discovered. Many spiritual traditions remind us that transformation does not happen when life is easy. It happens when we learn to remain centered while everything around us is changing. Anyone can feel peaceful when circumstances are perfect, but true inner peace is discovered when uncertainty no longer controls your heart. This is why the symbolism of Shiva continues to inspire people across generations, not because it promises a life without change, but because it reminds us that change itself can become a path to wisdom. So if today you feel lost, take one step. If you feel afraid, take one honest breath. If you feel uncertain, remember that every great journey begins before the destination is visible. Trust does not mean having all the answers. It means having the courage to continue even when the next step is hidden. Imagine standing before an ancient mountain at sunrise. The sky is still dark. You cannot yet see the full landscape. But slowly, the first rays of light begin to touch the highest peaks. Nothing in the mountain has changed. Only the light has. Sometimes your life is exactly the same. The opportunities were always there. The strength was always within you. The love you were searching for had never completely left. Only your perspective needed to change. And when your perspective changes, everything begins to look different. Not because the world transformed overnight, but because you did. So today, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" try asking, "What is this moment inviting me to become?" That single question has the power to transform fear into curiosity, confusion into clarity, and struggle into growth. Before you leave, I want to offer you a simple reflection. Close your eyes for just a moment. Take a slow, deep breath. As you exhale, imagine releasing one fear, one regret, one limiting belief that has been weighing on your heart. Now imagine making space for something new. Peace, courage, wisdom, compassion, hope. You don't have to transform your entire life today. You only need to take the next meaningful step. Because every great transformation begins with a single decision. A decision to stop living on autopilot. A decision to trust your inner wisdom. A decision to become the author of your own story. If this message resonated with you, let it become more than just another video you watched today. Carry one lesson with you. Practice one act of courage. Release one burden that no longer belongs in your life. Small choices repeated consistently create extraordinary transformations. And perhaps that is the deepest message inspired by Shiva. Life is not asking you to become someone else. It is gently inviting you to remove everything that prevents your true self from shining. Thank you for sharing these moments with me. If this reflection touched your heart, write one word in the comments that describes what you are ready to release. Maybe it's fear, maybe it's doubt, maybe it's anger, or perhaps it's simply the past. Your single word may inspire someone else who needs encouragement today. If you enjoy reflections on spiritual wisdom, inner peace, mindfulness, and personal transformation, consider subscribing and joining our growing community. Every week we explore timeless teachings that encourage us to live with greater awareness, compassion, and purpose. Until our next journey together, take care of your mind, protect your peace, trust your path, and remember, the most profound transformation is not becoming someone new. It is finally having the courage to become who you have always been. Thank you for watching.